Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. It's your season. We love Jude Bellingham, but we are talking about Pixar movies today. There are 28 of them now with the release of Inside Out 2, which you will have already seen a review for at this point, or will be watching it right after this, depending on which one we release first. But we are going to be ranking all 28 Pixar films on a tier list. I have Thomas with me, as always, and we are joined by Sam, who, when I gave the list of tier lists, he said, I will do this one, so he's here. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and pull up the tier list. You two are both bigger fans, I think, of Pixar than I am.
Yes, and we are going to be swaying pretty much all of the decisions from your negativity today.
I'm not negative. I like Pixar a lot.
Okay,
I
well,
just
you
like
say that, but then we're going to get to some of the best films ever made, and you're going to say that they're okay.
Yes, yes, no, that's exactly. He's going to be like, I'm strong B, no, Esther, straight Esther. So
sure. I like a lot of Pixar. I'm just not quite as enamored with it as the two of you are, which I figured it would be good to have Sam on because I feel like there's some great movies. There's some genuinely great films in here.
Yeah, I went through a 2-year phase of being absolutely obsessed. Like, this was all I would talk about, as many could attest, would just be Pixar films. So yeah, you know, I come into this with a lot of baggage.
But anyways, we're going grading this in terms of Pixar, so it's S tier Pixar, F tier Pixar, not comparing these to the entire scope of the cinema canon. And we're just gonna go in chronological order. Starting off with Toy Story, I think this is a strong A.
I think it's
strong S for my book.
Yeah, I think either one is fine. Just because, you know, for I think I would put it in A, just because I think that it doesn't have as much to it in terms of. It's not as thought-provoking as some of their later movies at all. But
there are two better Toy Story movies.
There's one better Toy Story movie.
There's two better Toy Story movies.
There are two, but they all belong in S. I think part of its simplicity is part of its charm, though. Is such an imaginative concept.
I'd agree. I just don't think I'd quite put it in. I don't think I'd quite put it in.
I would be fine with putting it in S, but I think that A would be where I would put it in. Also, it deserves to be high on the list regardless because of its legacy and its importance and this film, it also was nominated for best screenplay at the Oscars. And that's kind of cool. And it's not like, even in comparison to the other movies that got screenplay nominations, as I said, it doesn't have as much in the script. But you can see the workings of magic. I think that if this film had, the animation style like of the third film, then I would like it more. But unfortunately, time doesn't work that way. So I can't really nitpick it in that way. But definitely dated, even in comparison to like Nemo and Monsters, Inc., which didn't come out that much after, but were still like at the beginning of their whole canon. They look like they could have come out a few years ago, whereas Toy Story very clearly does look like it came out in the 90s, which, isn't that much of an issue. As Thomas said, there is like a charm around that, but that's why I wouldn't put it in S.
Yeah, because I was actually just going to say that I don't think it's dated as badly as some of them, but when I'm looking at the rest of the list, I think only one that's dated worse is A Bug's Life, really. I think it has...
let's get into it. I love A Bug's Life. That's a strong A.
I think Bug's Life is C.
I genuinely think Bug's Life is a great movie.
as well, probably. I think.
Can I have B? Can I have B? This is a communist text. This is about workers revolting against the people who are owning the production.
Ants is that. Ants is definitely.
Ants is better.
Ants is better.
I have not watched
it. It just feels like a slightly paler comparison. I think Flick's quite annoying for most of the movie. It's doing that thing where it's like all based on one simple misunderstanding. And I don't think films really work when they're just based off that. And really, there's no other driving factor. I think weirdly the standout is Kevin Spacey as Hopper. I think
Woody Allen is the standout.
Problem.
Yeah, it's a problematic film in multiple regards. But either way, Kevin Spacey was found innocent, as he would attest in his interview with Piers.
Well, do you really want to go with that?
I don't know.
I have so little to say about this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I haven't seen it in a while, and maybe that's why. But it just doesn't arouse much conversation.
Sure. I had so many of these Pixar films on rotation as a child, and I think it is a point that this one just wasn't part of that. This one.
Can I have B? Can I have B?
I'm not sure you can. I'm not sure you can.
I really think it's C.
There's two people saying C here.
Fine.
Because it's just so It's
That's
so
no, we
slight.
don't. It's fine.
I
It's
get
on
that it
the
has
lower
but
end of
Trevor,
No, it's
watch
fine. It's fine.
Ants.
We can go Toy Story. No,
Ants
we
is
can move on
A
to Toy
tier
Story 2.
DreamWorks.
So Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
It's okay.
B.
I don't. It's perfectly okay.
I
A.
think
This is the best Toy Story movie.
This
I
is
think it's the
also
worst
S.
of the three.
This is the best Toy Story film. Right?
I don't
No,
agree with you.
It's
I
by
would go
far
second
it,
best. So,
it,
okay.
it
But
has
I'm
the
fine with
strongest
A. I'm
emotional
fine
core.
if we
It has
put
the
all three
strongest
of them in
emotional core.
A.
No,
But,
it doesn't. It does not have the strongest emotional call. I will violently clash against that.
No, I think
Have you
though
seen Toy
the
Story 3?
song.
I know
song, When She
this
Loved
one
Me?
feels the most intimate. This one feels the most intimate with them.
No.
It feels like
Disagree.
the
I
perfect-
think Toy Story
yeah.
3 is that. It's my
We
second
can-
favorite of a Toy Story lot. If
we
we're
can
putting
settle
them
for A
both
tier.
in A, we'll put them both in A. 'Cause
But
I
I
do think they
have to
belong in the
say,
same tier.
the song When She Loved Me from this film should have won the Oscar for original song. It's so good. I sang it in 7th grade
Amazing.
chorus.
Oh no.
And
Yeah.
it's a genuinely very beautiful.
It's really emotional. Like that entire sequence is one of the best things Pixar has ever done.
Yeah.
Sure,
but-
I would put it up there. I love all the
It's
additional characters they introduce as well. Jesse's great. Bullseye's
Yeah,
fun,
oh my god, yeah, Jesse. Like
Proctor.
Story-wise, I think it's a little generic.
That would be the main issue. I think a lot of sort of parody stuff it does with Star Wars doesn't quite come together. I don't think it's really relevant other than these characters need to be in danger at this point. Therefore, we'll put them in danger in this way. Whereas I think Toy Story is a lot more, I think it's in its simplicity that really rides, where it's all very character focused. I think Toy Story 2 slightly expands it to a point where it loses itself a bit. But having said that, I still think, there are all the amazing moments. It's still just as imaginative of world as they create. I think Woody's still just as strong as the protagonist. So I would go S, but if we want them on the same tier, that's
I'm not going to talk as much in this video because, as I'm sure everybody can tell, you two are far more passionate about these movies than I am. So
yeah, I'm really passionate about
when we get to like the link later in Yorgo's tier list, I'll speak much more.
Well, I have a question though. Can we take turns with who starts talking?
Sure.
In terms of like an order, just so that it can be more.
No. Monsters Inc.
Oh, S.
I would
S.
B.
S.
B.
S.
B.
Well, two people are saying yes.
No,
two people are saying yes.
This is exactly what I think of when I think of a Pixar movie. Like perfect plot, not only perfect main characters, but all of the side characters are
Great.
so memorable and funny and distinct. This is one of the best character design sets I've ever seen in an animated picture because all of them are memorable and different. And even like if you like pause and look at the background characters, like they're all distinct and different too. And it just has such a memorable score. It's so, plot-wise, it is simple, but it has enough oomph to each scene where, I don't know, you just care so much about their journey. It's really funny. It's really exciting. And it's so well paced. Like, oh my god, speak of good pacing, this has the best pacing I've seen in most animated films I've seen. This has better pacing, and it's so good. And especially the fucking receptionist, that's what I'm talking about when I say side characters that are the best. Like the receptionist, I have met that woman.
I found this to be far more unmemorable than a lot of other Pixar projects. Like I feel like it gets a bit repetitive at points.
What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what it is. It's one of the smartest, I think. Not as competent filmmaking studio would have made Mike and Sully be antagonistic towards each other throughout. No, it just starts off, they're best of buds, and I love their dynamic. I think that's one of the best dynamics they put screen. The sushi fucking chef has more characterization than anyone in Elemental, and I will stand by that point.
So does the receptionist.
Exactly. Yes, no, definitely. The receptionist definitely has more characterization than anyone in fucking The Good Dinosaur or whatever. So yeah, and the twist villain as well, I think, does pack enough of a punch where you're like, okay, the plot may have been simple, but it's arriving at this sort of anti-corporation message that I think is really good for kids. It's a perfect blend of a sort of family dynamic where you've got, there's stuff in there for older kids to enjoy. There's stuff in there for adults to enjoy. There's stuff in there for kids to enjoy. Yeah, like you say, I think it is honestly a perfect Pixar film.
Can we do A?
No, S.
Can I say another
thing? Does my opinion matter at all? Should I just?
Can I say being outweighed by two people?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Exactly. S, absolutely S. And I will not settle.
Yeah. It's
okay,
a shame.
where do we go? Because I have one more point to make. So in 2015, when Inside Out came out, a lot of people thought that it was really, important to show kids that like we need sadness, and that like without sadness, like our lives won't be dynamic and rich and we can't live honestly. This film did the same thing with fear and, being scared as a child, and those specific moments as a kid or things that you see as a kid that frighten you. And this movie showed that experiencing that is necessary to grow in the same way that Inside Out would do 15 years later. And it's so heartfelt. It has such a good message, and it's so memorable. I don't understand how you can say that this movie is unmemorable, especially in the Pixar canon.
Yeah. I would also argue best opening title sequence of any Pixar film, with the doors and Randall going.
I can agree with this. Yeah. I can agree with this.
Good.
Very strong title sequence.
Esther film. I will not.
Okay.
And it's a shame that it lost Best Animated Feature to Shrek. It really is.
Yeah.
Shrek's a good ass movie though.
Yeah, it is, but this is better.
Come on.
I don't know if I'd agree. Okay. Finding Nemo. I really, really like this movie. I think it's like can I speak? I think it's like a really, really excellently executed tale that I think, again, we've talked a lot about simplicity with Pixar stories, and I think that this is a very, very simple story, but I think it works really well as just kind of like a finding the wonders of the world through this very specific lens of a fish underwater. And I think it does what a lot of Pixar movies do best, which is creating these very specific and kind of like outlandish circumstances for kids to be relating to and make it very broadly emotionally accessible. I think it's a very strong A, but I would be perfectly happy with an S.
I'm looking at where this tier list is shaping up, and currently I'd put it a tier below Toy Stories and the Monsters Inc. of the world. I do think it gets a bit lost in itself in doing this, showing you the wonders of the world. I don't think all of them really are needed, and but having said that, it does have some great moments within that. I love Bruce and Shark stuff. I love Crush and Dirt stuff. Obviously those are the bits that have become infamous, but I think there is a lot in this film that people forget even happen. Like there's stuff with the birds on the water as they're taking them to the aquarium, where it's not quite, I don't think it quite blows.
Sorry, no, this movie has Willem Dafoe in it. That's immediately an A minimum.
I'd be happy to go A because I do think it is still very
Willem the God, okay? Come on.
Yeah. But I would personally put it slightly below the top three that we got. But if it's A, I'm perfectly fine.
Well, Sam, you say S, I say A, Thomas says B, so I think this is an A.
Yeah, right? No, I'm fine with that. And the more you say that, the more I see what you're saying. But for me, I kind of like that it's a little more meandery. But Monsters, Inc. is definitely more tight and efficient as a movie. It's better, but I think Nemo is just such a core Pixar film, and similar to Monsters Inc., even if all of those side characters aren't necessary, they're all really memorable, especially that fucking girl at the dentist with those knives for braces, and everyone in that fish tank too. Like, I loved that whole part of the movie. That might have been my favorite section of the film.
Yeah. And they made Australians like tolerable.
Yeah, it was really good. But yeah, at A tier makes sense. I mean, it's definitely top tier, and another one of my favorite animated movies ever. And
listen, it's gonna be probably pretty top heavy early on. Don't worry, it'll balance out by the end once we get to the mid 2010s. Okay. The Incredibles. Just a really
say S.
I mean, I would again say strong A, but I'd be happy with an S. Like, I think this is better than most contemporary superhero films. Like, it understands
all of them.
All of them. This is my favorite superhero film of all time.
Me too.
I think that's very valid. Yeah. Like, it understands, like, there's a reason why people are like, oh, they should make the Fantastic Four like the Incredibles. And it's because they should. Like, it understands, like, the pulpy, pop, like, comic-y nature of superheroes, and that they shouldn't be taken seriously, and that they should be weird and kind of dumb, but still have this really intensely beating heart at the core of it. Like, this is what superheroes should be.
Like, it's a dark film at times when Bob realizes that his whole, friends have been genocide. Like, it's awful and it's horrible.
Use genocide as a verb?
Well, yes, because, I mean, they're all killed off, and he's realized this, and it's a slow discovery. So I'm standing by it. I'm continuing with my spiel.
Bob's friends have been genocided.
They have, and it's horrible, and it was such a heartbreaking scene to watch. And I'm so shocked they got away with in a kids' film. Syndrome's great as well.
Okay, and do you know who the best is? Edna.
Edna Mode.
Edna Mode.
Edna can
one of the best Pixar side characters ever. Maybe the best Pixar side character.
The best lesbian ever recorded on film.
The best, yeah, that's true. I mean, can we get the Celine Sciamma directed Edna Mode film? Like,
it's not a coincidence that Edna looks like director Lena Wertmuller, who was the first woman nominated for Best Director. They look identical. Like, it's kind of scary, but at the same time, kind of looks like the Lorax mayor. But that's another topic. I still think that this movie is like Monsters Inc. So Pixar core. Like, obviously, Toy Story is like the face of Pixar because it's their first and their biggest franchise. Yeah. But The Incredibles is so Pixar core. Like, it's so tight, tense, and family driven in the same way that Monsters Inc. is. And the ultimate messages that the film delivers are so rooted in relationships and growth. And I think that it so effectively communicates everything that it wants to while still being so entertaining. And I kind of like how, you know, even Monsters Inc. and Nemo, like a kid could watch that movie starting halfway through and enjoy it, but Incredibles does have more weight to it in that a kid would kind of have to watch it from the beginning to be able to follow it all the way through. Yeah. It is more plot focused, and I kind of appreciate that about it. I think that it's incredible. So yeah, I'd rank that as well.
Yeah, it made me convince myself that Incredibles 2 was good for about 3 years, just off the success of this one, where I was like, well, this one was so good, this Incredibles 2 has to be.
I mean, between this and the Spider-Verse movies, like, genuinely, superheroes should just be strictly confined to the animated
and the Lego Batman movie.
Yeah,
right. Like, if they're gonna be live action, they should be like the 1960s Batman movie. If you're not gonna do that, just be animated.
Yeah, I agree. Because they all take themselves so seriously to the point
take themselves way too seriously.
They take themselves seriously, but when they don't, it makes sense because superheroes are inherently silly. And when an animated movie is going to take itself more seriously as a superhero movie, that makes sense naturally because it's a cartoon, so it should be like that.
Yeah, it naturally disarms, but then still allows for emotional storytelling.
Exactly.
I like The Dark Knight. Just leave that comment out there.
Bad movie. Anyways, mid movie. I won't say bad. Okay, Cars. I would say B. I am very nostalgic for this movie.
I would say
C. This movie was my childhood. This was my childhood Pixar movie. I also lived right on Route 66 when I was like a little kid. So I'd like look out my window and be like, is Lightning McQueen driving by? But I also do think it like genuinely does some really nice stuff about like the disintegration of small towns in the Midwest and in comparison with the uprising of corporate America. It does.
Along with the car tongues and that whole bit.
It's a B.
I think it is better than A Bug's Life. I'd probably agree with Sam. I would say it's on a C tier, but if we're doing it, I do think it's better than A Bug's Life.
Can I have B?
I really think it's
This was my childhood Pixar movie. This is mine.
In this,
I'm not saying it should be an A or an S.
In the context of this list, I think B. But it does make sense to me that aside from Monsters Inc., this was the one Pixar film to not win Best Animated Feature in the 2000s. Like there's a reason why, and it's not like it lost to Shrek, which was predicted to get a Best Picture nomination.
Happy Feet, right?
Fucking Happy Feet after winning Golden Globe Critics'
Choice. This is a better movie than Happy Feet. This is a significantly better film than Happy Feet. But
can I say something about that? It's like for a Pixar film that made so much money worldwide to lose the Oscar after winning PGA, Annie, and Globe,
but it shouldn't have.
But that's telling that it's kind of weak and compared to in the 2000s canon. This is an F tier.
Sorry, I'm not going to use awards to justify how good a movie is.
No, but there's a reason why that happened, and I think that in the 2000s alone, this would be F tier, but in all of Pixar's, I would put it at C. But I'm fine with B.
Yeah, it's very accessible to kids, and I can see why it did span another 2 films. But I think if you're looking at it from a slightly older perspective, I don't think there's quite as much there as there is.
That's why I'm not trying to put it in an S or A, but I do think it's a very fun movie.
I think anyone who says that this isn't the best film in the Cars franchise is fundamentally wrong on a number of levels.
It's easy.
But
Okay, Ratatouille.
S. This is by far my favorite Pixar film. This is also my favorite animated film ever made. This is not just my childhood nostalgia film, but also like my fucking adolescent film, my adult film. Like this movie is everything to me. So my 9th birthday party, literally, I invited my class and we watched Ratatouille. Like that was literally my 9th birthday party. I've seen this film at least 20 times. It is the best paced film I think I've ever seen in my life. It has such a good construction of its characters. It has such a good dynamic. It actually talks about poverty, class, and independence and social status in a way that no other Pixar movie has, at least successfully. It is genuinely gripping and tense. It has a feeling to it. This, even though I love The Incredibles and Monsters, Inc., they're up there, top 5. I think that Ratatouille, out of every Pixar film, has the most distinct tone in that you feel the temperature of every room and location in this movie. You sense the warmth, the food, all of it is so beautiful, and that ultimate conclusion of the actual Ratatouille is beautiful. It is such an amazing cinematic moment, and it wraps up the film in such an authentic and incredible way and elevates it to a level that it was already above and beyond, and that elevated it to being an all-time classic for me. And I think that this film is honestly like it's so beautiful, it's so memorable, it's so entertaining and well paced, and I don't see how anything can be wrong. Like I don't see how you can fault it in any way. It's perfect.
I ain't saying all that. I think this is like a solid like 8 out of 10 movie. But Sam had me rewatch this because I had this at like a 6 before and I didn't remember it as being all that strong, and then I rewatched it and I bumped it up to an 8. I think one thing that you didn't mention is it does do some really nice stuff with I think just the arts in general, and how one can find themselves and one can find identity in the lack of identity through art. I still have issues. I don't think it's like a perfect movie or anything. But it's a very, very solid Pixar film.
See, this is
and I would put it top of A or S.
See, this is interesting because I think I prefer the film to you, therefore, Trevor. But I would advocate for being A. Just looking at the other things we've got, I still think it is among Pixar's best and among their top echelon. I don't find the characters themselves to be as defined as in films.
That's why that's what kept it at an 8 for me.
And I think that just is slightly holding back, but I think the environment settings are brilliant. I think it is one of Pixar's best animated films on a technical level in terms of what it's doing with the really animation,
the score,
in terms of how it builds the world.
The score is excellent.
I would be happy with S. I personally put it in is where I'm at.
Can we please
I would be fine with either A or S. So
I think this is significantly better than Toy Story.
Sam is very passionate about it.
You're very passionate. I don't think it's it's so.
I just think that like even comparing it to Toy Story, which like obviously is iconic, like this film is much more rich and dynamic than that film. Like it has so much more that you can grasp onto than that film. And like even comparison to Finding Nemo, it's the same way where like each scene feels well constructed and necessary to the film, despite the fact that it also isn't tense. And it in the same way that The Incredibles is.
I still feel like overall, I feel like we put Incredibles over it on our overall list.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But for me, this is one of my favorite films ever made, probably in my top 10. And anything other than it being godly to me is crazy, but it's also like this is so Letterboxd. Like this is Letterboxd's favorite movie. Like if you go through the people you follow on Letterboxd, like the vast majority of them are going to have it rated 5 stars. It kind of recently picked up traction in this way where
it is the highest rated Pixar film on Letterboxd.
Yeah, and 5-10 years ago people did not think of Ratatouille as the best Pixar film at all. Like people were not saying
I still don't think I would necessarily call it the best Pixar film. I still think that there's a couple that I prefer, but it is very, very good.
And I tell you what, that ride, I think it's at Epcot in Disney World, Florida, the Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Oh my God, what a ride. It gave me a newfound appreciation for that film. But that's just a random side. I'm happy with that.
I've never been to Disney.
Thank you guys for allowing me
I've never been to Disney. Is that weird?
No, it's not. I mean, I went once when I was really little. I don't really remember.
I don't know if I'll ever go to it. It does not seem interesting. Anyways, WALL-E. I would say
yes
S.
as well. It's got the S as well.
This is up with like potentially my favorite Pixar film. I think that this is incredible. I think this might be my favorite looking Pixar film as far as the animation. Like, there's a couple of sequences in space, like, and then you have the sparks and this, like, all the different colors. It looks stunning. And I don't know, it actually tells like a very, very interesting and surprisingly kind of complex, like, dystopian story that's very, very anti-government and anti-capitalism. Let's go. And I don't know. I think it really works on a lot of larger existential levels while also just being like a really simple, well executed love story kind of at its core.
And because I mean, we've talked about characterization with some of these films. I think they learned from it and they built it and they made it silent and they said, how can we do this just through design? And I think you get characterization immediately just by looking at the character of Woody, just by looking at the character of Eve. And I think that is the real beauty of animation, that you can really do that and make that work.
I think this is Pixar's best movie. Genuinely, I really, really do think that.
I think it's technically maybe one of the best in terms of just looking at everything it is doing, the messages it is delivering in a way that it is going about doing them, in a world that it creates as well. Like, sure, Ratatouille creates an amazing world. Sure, Monster Inc. creates an amazing world. WALL-E is the one for me that really, really comes alive when you look at just everything, as you say, because if you just pause the film and every moment in that shuttle, you understand all of the dynamics, and it's all done for animation. And
like,
therefore,
it's just pure filmmaking.
Out of all of them, this is the one that could not have been done without the animated form, and I think it is a massive proponent and champion. And so I
would put it here, but we don't have to.
I'd probably have it below The Incredibles, but
I would have it like I have them literally at 6 and 7 on my ranking, or like 5 and 6 on my ranking.
Okay.
Either, I don't care, but I agree. And the only thing about this movie that I don't love is that I do think the first 30-40 minutes are stronger than the rest of the film. I do think that the initial.
We'll get into that with the next film on the list.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. For sure. But I do think that once we are visible to the society in this film, I lose a little bit of interest. But it's still like, it's like that first part is absolutely S tier, and then the rest is A. Like, I still think it's obviously incredible, but compared to the other 3 movies on here, it would be my least favorite just because of that.
Okay, sure. But yeah, so we've had both of our favorite Pixars. I think Thomas is coming up, not next, but the one after.
Very soon, yes.
But first up, this is a B. The first 15 minutes of this movie are very good. The rest of it is kind of annoying.
I tell you what, and I think Sam will agree with this. I think we've got Cars in B, which is saying for me that this film doesn't belong in B. I think it probably does, but Cars doesn't belong there either. I'd shift Cars down and then put up in B, and I'm very happy with that because I do agree.
I'll take that because I'm an up hater.
It falls off after, I think, 10 minutes. I find
obviously the opening scene, the G Kino score, it's all incredible. Like, name another thing that happens in that movie that's like S tier Pixar. Name one thing. You can't.
Well, the end, I think I agree, but also the last 10 minutes are also amazing. I think it ends and begins absolute S tier, and the rest in the middle is, I still really like it. I think it's strong, but you're right. The rest, it's like an A- for me, whereas those other Pixars from the 2000s are AA+. But I'm fine with B. I get it. I think that a Best Picture nomination was a lot for a movie like this, especially when Ratatouille and WALL-E, maybe they would have made it in if there were 10 nominees, but like in the grand scheme, like those 2 not getting in and The Incredibles not getting in, but Up getting in is a little, I don't love it because
it's really elevated, I think, by a lot of people in the Pixar canon just purely because of the opening scene, which fair.
It does deserve that. It has
like
one of the
if
best
the opening scene was a short film, it would be one of the best animated short films ever made.
Yeah. I think
but
so. And it would have won the Oscar.
Yeah.
And I think as well, animation studios have been constantly chasing Doug since Up was released, and they've been looking for the next Doug, and it's just not quite worked. I think that character is the blueprint for how you do funny animal sidekick. I think there is no better example than Doug, so he deserves credit in that as well.
So, but no, I think B is very fair for this movie, and that's fine. We can put Cars in C.
Yeah.
Toy Story 3. Here's Thomas's favorite Pixar movie. This was the first. This was the first movie I ever saw in theaters, and I didn't finish it because I started crying and we had to leave the theater. But I would say strong A, but I feel like this is gonna end up in S, which I'm perfectly fine with.
No, immediately yes. It's only grown more powerful over time. It's a film I've come to at all points in my life so far. I think that it maintains a sense of humor throughout, even when it goes quite dark, when you think that all hope is lost. It still retains a sense of fun, this sense of childish imagination, I think, is at the core of Toy Story 3, and this relationship between children and toys and children animation. And that all comes through, and I just think this is a culmination of Woody's arc, of Andy's arc. It's a culmination of so many things that were built up in Toy Story 1, built up, expanded on further in Toy Story 2, but I really think only come to a front in Toy Story 3 when they're forced to confront this massive change. Andy's moving away, Andy's growing up, and I think the opening's great as well. The sort of Redux version of the opening of Toy Story, I think that's so fun. Spanish buzz is excellent. All of the new additions, in the same way Toy Story 2 introduced a bunch of new characters that I thought were great. Toy Story 3 did the same. It's just a shame it was slightly spoiled by Toy Story 4, but we'll get to that one when we get to that one. Easy, Esther.
No, I mean it is a very, very good film. I still prefer Toy Story 2 as my favorite Toy Story, but I mean this is great. I remember, did anybody have a Leapster Explorer, one of those little handheld things? I remember I played the Toy Story 3 game on the Leapster Explorer.
I had the Toy Story 3 PS3 game, actually.
Okay, so you had the slightly more evolved console. I had this little green fucker, but yeah, that's like it was such a cultural moment. Like it was just massive. Very, very nostalgic, which is interesting also now because as we're all graduating that period and going to college and stuff this year. So it really does work at all points in life.
I'm scared to rewatch it. I'm scared to rewatch it because it's been kind of a minute since I've seen it, because I know if I watched it now, I would be a mess. And it's so emotionally. This is really I don't cry in that many movies at all. I really don't. But this one, I have to be basic and just say that it is one of the top movies that makes me cry because it's so emotional and you feel like you grew up with Andy and Woody and it I don't know and I think that this is another one that got a Best Picture nomination and it deserved it. This one might be my favorite movie of the list of nominees that year, which is kind of impressive to say because there are a lot of strong movies.
There's also a bad lineup, I think.
I don't agree. I think there are a good handful of movies that year, but this was my favorite of the lineup. And I think that the number one complaint I hear is that the bear is a bad twist villain, but I don't even agree with that. I think the bear is
Thomas, do you want to go to your...
Oh, no, are we doing this? Well, yeah, because Trevor didn't know about the theory that it's all an allegory for the Holocaust. Obviously, it's fucking not, and it's a stupid conspiracy theory. I'll preface that. But Trevor was not aware of this. Essentially, Lotso is a Hitler stand-in figure. The playroom that they go to is a metaphor for and then
I wasn't even talking about this. I was talking about your parents having to prepare you.
Yes. Yeah, there were merchandise back in the day, little yogurt tubes that had the Toy Story 3 characters on, and I became obsessed with the character of Lotso. My parents then had to say, Thomas, I think Lotso is going to be the villain, just to prepare you going in so you're not too upset when the twist villain reveal happens. So I was spoiled by my parents, but they were right to do that. I think I would have been.
It was really
good. Don't think I could have coped. I think I would have gone into mental paralysis had Lotso turned out to be the villain, and I'd gone in with such high expectations of this cute and cuddly character. But it's one of my favorite films of all time. It's really among sort of Muppets Christmas Carols of the world, where it's just a film that really hit as a child, and I think continues to do so to this day, where it's one that I will go back if I'm ever sick. Toy Story 3 is being thrown on, put it that way.
For sure.
It's a massive comfort film, and I think one that is worthy of the reputation it precedes it.
For sure. Both of you said I have weird comfort movies. Like last time I was sick, I watched Roll Going to the World's Fair as a comfort movie.
Yeah, that's very fucking strange.
Yeah, and Thomas, these movies, like the S tier movies, are comfort films.
Comfort films,
right?
I feel like every year I rewatch a couple of Pixar films. Like obviously I rewatch Ratatouille every year, but some of the other ones I kind of rotate between. And oh my god,
I probably should. It would probably be better if I watched these
because they're just so easy to watch. And And
Okay, well, this might not be
And
as easy
the
to watch.
best of them, you get more to appreciate every time you watch it.
yeah,
Speaking of not the best of them, I think
I
this
would
is
say
F tier.
D. I would say
F.
D.
Fucking
F.
F. Put it in
F.
F, man.
I
have nothing to say about this movie.
I think Finn McMissile is cool.
This is more corporately soulless than Lightyear, and that is saying a lot. I think this had nothing going for it whatsoever.
But they
It's
raced and it was fun.
stupid film.
It's so dumb.
Stupid film.
Oh, the pistachio ice cream. That's wasabi. Oh no.
That was funny.
It wasn't. Even as a child, I felt I was above this film. You know.
I did not. I had a fun time with this.
No.
It's
no,
not a good movie. It's a really bad movie, but I have fond memories.
No. Soulless.
But that's fine. We can
Soulless.
put Cars 2 and F. That's okay.
Let's just move on. We don't need to talk about it.
Brave is like D or C. It's one of the most
Can I
forgettable
make a
Pixar
case
films.
for
It is
C?
one of the most forgettable Pixar films.
Yes, it's forgettable, but people act like this is F. Grow up. This is not an
No,
F.
it's not. It's serviceable. It's just forgettable.
It's a perfectly good movie. It's if it came from DreamWorks, people would not be on its ass all the time. It would be considered a higher tier DreamWorks film. And it,
Well, I think that says more about DreamWorks than anything else.
Of course, but I think it gets also a bad rep for winning the Oscar, which obviously it should not have over Wreck-It Ralph. That's cuckoo. But I think that it's still successful and engaging. And the old lady says Fortnite in a really stupid way, and it made me laugh my ass off when I was high watching it. So I have to give it some credit. I think C.
I mean, I'd go D. I do think.
I would also say D.
That's fine. Whatever.
I agree that it gets a better rep purely because it is Pixar. But it is, in the grand, like, if we're judging this off the grand scheme of Pixar stuff, like, I do think it is definitely lower tier Pixar.
Whereas some of these films that we'll get to later on specifically, I think have good moments but are weak overall. I think this is kind of the opposite, where it's just kind of okay overall, but with no defining moments, no things that make you really go, oh,
there
wow.
There isn't like a memorable character, a memorable scene like there is for a lot.
Yeah,
I just can't believe they made a movie about Saoirse Ronan before she was even that popular.
No, there's a reason people think this is a Disney film and get confused all the time.
Yeah.
However, there's a reason for that.
Okay, Monsters University also D. This movie is very boring.
What are you talking about? This is B for me.
At least. And can I say why? Monsters University is exactly what a prequel should be. It doesn't change anything fundamentally about Monsters Inc. But and it's so engaging, it's so heartfelt, it has a memorable conclusion, and is generally very well paced and exciting. And I think that it has a lot of heart, it has a lot of humor. It isn't above and beyond in any way. It doesn't achieve greatness at all.
C at most. Looking at
I think this is B.
I think this is B. I think this is B. I mean, the scare
it's way better than Cars and A Bug's Life.
The scare games are like whatever. They're a way to get the plot moving, to introduce stakes or whatever. They're not brilliant, but I don't think it matters when you've got the character moments that are there to service that. I do think it expands on the Monsters Inc. world, and I think it makes you appreciate Monsters Inc. even more because it fleshes out these characters' worldviews, it fleshes out their dynamics, and I really like Randall in it. I think Mike goes on a great journey. I think Sully goes on a great journey. I do think it does lack the stakes at times. I don't think the Dean is that scary. And is there another villain in it? I guess the jock guy. Sort of
maybe it's a bit forgettable,
but I think it has some moments that really elevate it beyond just forgettable Pixar. I really do.
I just said I would be happy with C.
It's also got great side characters. Everyone in that OK team is
Helen Mirren's character. 8.
Yeah. Everyone is so funny, and again, it's using that animation. It's using these creative designs.
It's so colorful. It's so bright.
It's probably Pixar's most colorful film in terms of that sort of thing. So yeah, B in my book, 100%.
Yeah, I think B plus.
Sure.
There we go. Perfect.
Inside Out. This is S for me. I love this movie a lot. I think it is just so well constructed, and there is that criticism that it's Pixar trying too hard to be Pixar. Don't really see that at all. I think it's one of their most honest and authentic films. I just rewatched it recently in preparation for Inside Out 2 and was really surprised by how well it hold up for me because some of these Pixar films have faded a bit for me, but it's really, really smart and disguised under these bright colors that make these very complex things very easy to kind of understand and discern and associate these ideas with for kids. But it really works without that. And I think that this is in the same way that we were kind of talking about WALL-E. I do think that this is one of the few that does not work without the animation, and it really takes advantage of animation as a medium. Also, when I saw this in theaters as a 10-year-old in 2015, the person next to me vomited.
Wow.
So very, very distinct memories.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Sort of their panel at that point.
But yeah,
no,
S
completely agree. I would probably put it S. I think I maybe have about 6 or 7 films, so it's not top tier Pixar for me, but it does still belong in that top category, I think. Yeah,
put it
not much more
here.
to add. Really. Just,
we can put it there.
It's definitely the worst of the I don't know. I like it more than maybe WALL-E personally, but I think out of that group, in terms of
I'd put it in the bottom of that group.
It's the last one for me. But I think
that's so funny because WALL-E and Inside Out are my 2 favorites of this bunch. So
well, they're all amazing, but
yeah,
I think Inside Out is the most attentive to detail out of every Pixar film, and even like the script is like probably like up there in their top 3 for best writing, because like if you and I actually really like that the second one was attentive to detail in the same way, because I was worried that they weren't going to care as much about this specific thing that is subtle but brilliant that the first film did. And it's that even like every line that every emotion says correlates with their emotion. Even if it is a mix of 2 emotions, it still correlates with them, and it makes sense why each character would say that thing in each given situation, despite the fact that they could have easily had,
it's a very easy premise to overcomplicate and mess up.
Right.
And it doesn't.
Yes, and I think that the second one did the same thing, where it's like, of course, that character would say that in that moment. Mm-hmm. And it's really smart in how it handles this. And also, like, despite the fact that she's not the focus in the same way as other, and not really a protagonist in the same way, Riley is still a character that you care about a lot, and these guys make you feel a lot about Riley, and you see that pay off a little bit in the second movie, because just through this her so well, and in those tense moments in the second film you're like, but Riley, no, because what she's been through so deeply. And I think this feels like it was released in the 2000s by Pixar, like, for sure, but also like it works, so it made so much money and was so popular, and our generation is the resonating one with this because it's so universal, and absolutely the best, and also incredible score, robbed of a nomination.
Because it takes the general concept of showing these emotions that are hyper specific, obviously, to this one character, but the way everyone is brought on board with this, and everyone has something that they can relate to, which we'll obviously get to the second film, but I also think that's another aspect of the second film that really works. It just builds this universal sort of thing where, and it's that childish imagination thing. Obviously, you can think of toys coming to life. What if the monster's behind your door? What if there are emotions in your head controlling it? I do think there is that just general premise and immediate.
I got like 50 of them, and half of them are not okay.
Sure, but they're still controlling you. You never know.
They're still controlling me, I want to see various spin-offs just like inside the head of different famous people. Like, it's just like, this is inside the head of Michael Jordan. This one's inside the head of George Washington. This one's Adolf Hitler. Like, just going through different famous people.
I don't know if Disney could get away with doing that last one.
That would be cool, though.
It would be fascinating. You should see fighting political satire with these Inside Out guys.
Yes, that'd be incredible. Anyways, The Good Dinosaur, D or F?
D. No, I don't think it's because the thing is, it has some really beautiful backgrounds that work well as a screensaver in the background.
Sure,
but
that's fine.
It's not terrible.
Film, though. A screensaver's not a film. I don't think.
Never mind. I'm with Thomas. F. This movie's so boring.
Fine, I can't argue. Boring. It's The Good Dinosaur.
It is so boring.
But guys, 4-time Academy Award winner Frances McDormand is in it.
I don't remember what happens in it. I don't remember.
I remember them like going down water on a mountain at some point, and I distinctly remember the comet missing them, and that's it.
Yeah, comet misses them. Yeah, but I could give pretty very detailed plot explanations of most of these films.
Yeah.
I could not tell you what happens
No.
in the.
The only thing I genuinely remember nothing about. I literally remember nothing about this movie, and the only thing that I do remember is because it's always a meme on like Instagram Reels, is that one clip of the dinosaur drinking a lot of water and then spitting it all out over the field. And it's like they're always like, me after trying to drink 4 shots of vodka at once because I want to get drunk faster. And like that's the meme. So that's the only reason why I would put this in D and not F, because it sparked something funny somewhere, even though it has nothing to do with the actual film itself. Like, whereas Cars 2 didn't have that for me.
No.
So
but like even the psychedelic experience that they have, like they made that boring. Like there's a psychedelic experience.
They have there's a psychedelic experience with dinosaurs in this?
They eat some like mushrooms or maybe blueberries or something.
I don't remember
this at all.
You don't remember that at all? They go mental, they go all bug-eyed and they start like just
you could name 3 different things that happened in this movie that aren't true and I would just believe
it. That's a
little
too crazy to be a lie.
So, yeah, I know they do have that, but as I say, as a testament to the fact that neither of you remember it, because it's boring. They made a sequence like that boring. There's even those cliche Pixar things where the dad dies at one point, which you obviously know. Oh, this
don't
is
remember that
Pixar bit, but it's just not the emotional Pixar bit.
I think I watched this movie on my phone in 2017.
Fair enough.
I remember more. I like one of my parents made these like pizza bite things and they were really bad, so I remember putting one in and then just letting it sit in my mouth because I didn't want to swallow it, but I also didn't want to spit it out. And I just remember sitting in like this like really soggy pizza thing in my mouth for 40 minutes, and that's all I remember about watching this movie.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyways, Finding Dory, D.
Or
also just really
works.
I think it's slightly, I don't know, like fuck Ellen, but like allegedly, because if the things are true, but I don't know. I really just think this is such a boring way to take one of Pixar's best films.
Yeah,
it is just the most this screams, and I feel like this is honestly the first one where it genuinely just screams of we want money and we want to sell toys at McDonald's. And it feels I would say so solid.
Cars too.
Well, but I feel like that. I feel like Cars, the first one, was built around selling toys to begin with. So I don't feel like it's that much of an extension to say that they were going to make another one to sell toys. This feels like it was purely made to sell toys, and it was so much later. Like it was like 12 years after. Whereas Cars 2 followed me. Like this feels like the beginning of Like I would agree, Cars 3 feels like that, but this feels like the beginning of contemporary like corporate money Pixar to me. Yeah, and honestly, F for that.
I would happily put this in F. I just think again, there's just nothing is defined in this film, and there's even the side characters they introduced, like Ed O'Neill's. Is it Ed O'Neill, the old one? Hank.
I'm not going to correct you.
I think it is Ed O'Neill.
I just remember the whale character being so annoying.
Yeah, and Dory is again like Meta, an annoying protagonist.
Dory is perfect in Finding Nemo. Yeah, Dory is perfect in Finding Nemo because she's a supporting character.
Yes,
Meta.
You can't make a comedic relief character.
Make a Mater movie.
No, you can't do that, and that's why this failed. Because when you make that kind of character who people love because she has one-liners, the lead, and the whole movie is the one-liner, it's obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully agree.
No, and it feels so tangentially connected to the first one, whereas Monster University genuinely felt like a sort of prequel, but second film in the franchise. It expanded on the world. This just felt like it shrunk.
It's the same movie. It's the same. It's literally
it's made for money. It's made for money.
It was based in.
Yeah, it is
exactly. Cars 3, I would put in D. I don't think I'd agree. I don't think it's as bad as Cars 2.
I think if you held a gun to my head and asked me to tell you a single thing that happened in this movie, you might as well just pull the trigger, because I really could not tell you a thing.
It is weird. It feels so separate from the other two, I think, in a lot of ways. But I don't know. I think it's there is at least some memorable stuff with the new cars that are introduced, and I think that it at least has an emotional core, even if it isn't entirely executed. Whereas I don't think that Cars 2 does.
Yeah, and also before this movie in theaters, the Pixar short Lou played before, which is an incredible, which is one of their best shorts. Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, so definitely. Better than the film that it played before.
I agree completely. Yeah. Lou was a masterpiece.
But anyway, it's not an F. Yeah. It's not an F.
No, it's not an F, because I do like the Cruise character.
Yeah. There was that weird
and
ass bus that
Matrix
like tried to
Sideline.
kill a bunch of the cars or whatever. Remember that?
Yeah, no, there
In
was
the
in that
demolition
dirt rally,
derby.
in the demolition
Yeah,
derby.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think it works. There are moments that work as a conclusion to the Cars trilogy. Like it does feel like a if you had to make it a trilogy and you had to find a natural ending, I do think that they find that point with the end with Cruise and Lightning McQueen.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Even if a lot of the movie doesn't work. So cool. Coco is a strong A for me.
I think it's B, because
Okay.
I think it has a really strong emotional ending, and I think the animation is
Beautiful.
this might
Beautiful.
be this might be
Whoa.
my favorite looking. Ooh,
That's fair.
that might be why it could be A, but story, it just doesn't have it. It doesn't.
I agree.
And
I'm looking at this list. I'd maybe look at A.
it's
but
so
you're
B
right.
plus. It's
There
so
is-
B. It's
There
such
is
a B.
nothing.
I'm fine with top of B. I am fine with top of B because it feels a bit contrived, kind of in the way that it gets to that ending.
But the
even
music
if
is
the
really
ending
good.
And again, music great. Like emotionally, at the end, it does work. I think as a representation of culture, it works quite well. Which we haven't really seen. I don't think that much from Pixar previously before. I mean, they tried to do like Gaelic culture or whatever, but you know.
Well,
but
they did it with Ratatouille pretty well in a more subtle way.
yeah, but it's about a
Trevor,
rat. Like
I thought they did Midwestern culture in Cars.
I was arguing to try to get it higher. Okay, I don't actually fuck off.
That's what I thought.
Anyways, no, I can get behind that. It doesn't entirely work as strongly as much of a high level throughout the first two acts. But I don't know. I think that on a technical level, and it does get to that emotional ending, I would push for A. But
where Cars 3 is like a mid to bad film with an amazing Pixar short before, Coco is a really solid film with by far one of the worst shorts I've ever seen in my life. Do you remember when Olaf's movie played before?
Oh yes!
Oh my god!
Remember Olaf Shaw? Olaf's Frozen.
That short, I rated a half a star on Letterboxd because it pissed me off so much. It was so long. It was a whole musical. It had more songs.
Which one was Bao in front of? Because Bao was
Incredibles 2.
Yeah, that's another one where the short is better than the movie.
Yeah, we'll get to that now. But Coco, very solid. Part of me would be fine with A, but I think B is more comfortable, even though I like it less than up.
Okay, yeah. No, I think B is fair enough.
Yeah,
I think top of B, very top of B.
Nothing much happens in that second act really of note.
Yeah, it does spin its wheels for a bit.
It spins its wheels, and it doesn't do as much with the world that I think it wants you to think it's doing. It's like establishing this whole Day of the Dead stuff, the world, the afterlife, but I don't think it's really going there in quite the way that it needs to work.
Sure, I totally get that. Okay, Incredibles 2 is C tier.
C, I agree.
I've got very complex thoughts about this because coming out of the cinema in 2018, this is my favorite film of all time. Genuinely, I was obsessed with this film when I watched it in 2018. Looking back, I can see the problems with it. Obviously, I think the villain is weak and her plan does not make even an ounce of sense. She wants to put these goggles on, make the superheroes distrusted, even though they are illegal anyway and not really trusted, but just, confirm that they're bad. And then do what exactly? I'm not sure. And her origin as well, the fact that her parents were shot by superheroes. No, superheroes didn't come and save her parents.
They tried to do Captain America Civil War, which already isn't that strong of a film, and then did it worse.
Yeah, I don't know what on earth they were doing with that character, but it still has a fun family dynamic. I think I love Bob trying to be a single parent for a bit whilst Elastigirl goes out. I think that's all great stuff. Has some great sequences, and it's just a fun time overall.
It's impressively unmemorable.
Yeah, it is. And
considering how
it doesn't have it, the first one just stands on its own so well.
It doesn't have it.
And this doesn't really add anything at all. It doesn't make it worse, but it really just whether it exists or not, my life is the exact same and has zero difference in trajectory.
And again, it feels like another one of those money grab ones more than anything else.
I don't think it feels quite the same as Finding Dory Cars.
Not quite the same. I think it's better, certainly. But I don't know. I think it's.
I think there was demand for a sequel for this in a way that there wasn't demand for a sequel for Finding.
Yeah.
At least speaking from personal experience, I really wanted to see an incredible sequel when I was younger, and I was not disappointed. Which I think
I feel like C is the mid tier. C is just middle of the road, and I
I'm
feel like this
happy
is
for it to go C, just because there are so many flaws with it. They introduced a whole host of new superheroes that just are completely irrelevant to everything going on. I don't know why they're there. The opening's slightly weaker than you'd expect for it preceding a however long 14-year wait to pay off his underminer character. So yeah, there are definitely problems there, but I can't this completely.
I forgot they even did the underminer thing, and it's just I know it feels very underwhelming in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Okay, Toy Story 4.
I
would say C or D. C or D. It's a really bad movie.
I think it's C. I can't. F is really.
Thomas, explain.
That's worse than Cars 2. That's on the same level.
It's not worse. It's better than all of those. Those are probably those are my 4.
Fine, we can put it there, but I don't think this is a bad film. I think it's perfectly fine.
I think it's really annoying, and I think it within the context of the Toy Story series, it undoes so much character growth in a very annoying way. I'll let you rant about this because you care about these movies more than I do.
In a very efficient way as well, it manages to undo. It's shockingly offensively efficient way of undoing all of the character growth of Woody, who over the courses of the films, he realizes that he needs a child at his heart, and he'll always be a child's toy, and then fucks off with Bo Peep after a fling. He fucks off with a one-night stand is what I interpret Woody to do in this film. Buzz Lightyear is made shockingly incompetent and shockingly stupid. It's ridiculous how many plot contrivances need to happen in order for any of the plot to make an ounce of sense. It's all contrivance. It's all, that was a lucky coincidence that I happened to be in the same place as Bo Peep.
It's happenstatial storytelling.
Exactly. And that is all that there is to it. It completely undermines anything.
And Forky is annoying as fuck.
Yes, Forky's quite annoying. Any other side character that's introduced is even the Key and Peele stuff, which I thought was maybe funny at the time. It's just like it's unmemorable. It doesn't work. Yeah. None of the film comes together. Sure, it looks visually nice, but I think that this setting of this traveling fair is far less interesting than Sunnyside. Is far less interesting than even Al's Toy Barn, or even Sid's the fucking next door neighbor's house. I think they take it to just this place that it doesn't need to go. This film doesn't need to.
And now they're making another one.
Now they're making another one, so fuck knows what will be in store for there. But this needs to exist less than Finding Dory, less than Cars 2. I don't know why they make.
I think from a technical level, it is just way more impressive than those, which puts it in D. As
maybe
far as the
Cars
animation.
2, I'm not even sure than Finding Dory is better.
I know. I'm happy with D, and Sam, I think you like this movie more than both of us.
Yeah, but I also saw it for I saw it when it came out, and I haven't seen it since, so I'll take your word. I don't really care enough.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Onward, F. Also D.
F.
I think it's really bad.
I think this really movie is really terrible, and it feels like an Illumination film.
It does. It absolutely feels like an Illumination film. Yes.
The only thing that makes it not an Illumination film is that the animation is slightly more detailed. Like
DreamWorks, I'll give you DreamWorks, not Illumination.
No, It's a good Illumination movie.
Yes, but it's an Illumination movie.
It
has no reason to exist. Zero. The plot is dumb. The characters are dumb. It
desperately wants to be a metaphor. It desperately wants to be a metaphor, and it's a metaphor for absolutely nothing. This is such like Pixar trying to make you cry core, where it's so transparently emotionally manipulative. This movie's really annoying. I don't think that the voice performances are good at all. It's one of the few Pixar films where the vocal performances actively take me out of the film.
I think they're terrible.
It's D. It's
no,
bad.
I think this is F. I think this is worse because this is way worse than Toy Story 4 and Brave.
Are you kidding me?
This is worse than Brave. This is way worse than Brave. And
this is a C-tier Pixar.
To me, this movie, it literally has like who is the target audience? Truly, because I genuinely mean this. If the backgrounds and the landscapes had slightly less detail in them, I would think this is an Illumination film. I think Chris Pratt and Tom Holland are so annoying.
They're Illumination actors.
The plot is terrible. The plot is actually so bad, and the plot
is an extended journey to get you.
No, it's a shockingly bad plot.
It wants to. I don't know. It wants to develop this world of like this, like it's fantasy but also contemporary, and then it does it for about 10 minutes and then just forgets the world it's developing. Like it's really bad. We're putting it in D because Thomas thinks it's a C.
I just think
but
I
last
have it
in D.
I think we haven't seen this film 3 times, as I have seen this film 3 times. And
why would I? Why would I want
what?
to sit through 6 hours of Onward? Do you
think
like torture?
I think you're watching this film with just COVID dawning lenses. The world's a bit negative at that time. I think you're being ridiculously harsh on a
Then
film.
they should have cheered me up because it's a very positive film.
I think it's a serviceable
It made me feel worse.
That does its job. I really like the relationship.
Name aside, if someone put a gun to my head, I couldn't name the main two characters.
Started,
obviously,
this is what started my COVID depression.
If I had a gun to my head and they asked me to name a side character, not only a name of a side character, but what they looked like, who they were,
the centaur boyfriend
no,
character.
I don't remember that. I don't know
what you're talking about. I remember the woman at the bar vaguely.
What? I don't even remember.
There's a pixie sort of biker gang vibes. They're pretty interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to defend a film that I'm not overly that passionate about. I just think you're being ridiculously harsh if you're calling it.
It's bottom of D. It's bottom of D.
So bad.
It is middling. It's C. It's a sort of fine film that does its job. That gets you
so much worse than everything else on that tier. It's so much worse.
It's so far better than all of them, actually.
No.
There is a big chasm between C and D. I'm looking at it, and I think Onward is being judged harshly. But oh well, we make compromises.
I think I think that the highs of Soul are S tier, but there's also the whole cat thing, which is kind of annoying. But I genuinely think like this stuff where they're like up above and they're like counting the people and everything like that. I think that's some of the most interesting design and like the most theoretically interesting, thematically interesting stuff that Pixar has ever done. Like I think it's incredible. I love all of the stuff with music and jazz. Like I love jazz music. So, but like I think all of that really works. I really like a lot of the character dynamics and jumping back and forth between reality and the afterlife, and I do think it's quite interesting in that way. But that entire second act is pretty rough.
I agree.
I would like A, but I would understand B.
I think B because as you said, this movie does have some really touching and impressive moments, especially with like not just the animation but the design and the way the film shows silhouettes and it shows big black rooms that like should be boring, but they make it really imaginative. But yeah, I mean, I think that it has a good message. I think that the score is really really good. Yeah, and I think it has that classic feeling of all the Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross scores, where it's super
and John Batiste.
Cool. But then John Batiste adds that extra part, which really elevates the music and makes it a lot more memorable. So that was
crazy if I say this is my favorite Pixar score.
That's crazy to me.
I love it.
I think that there are at least 5 that are more interesting to me, but this is for the modern era probably the best aside from Inside Out. But Soul to me definitely B tier. I think Minari should have beat it for score still, despite my praise, and it still should have lost Best Animated to Wolfwalkers. But regardless,
Wolfwalkers is not a good movie, but that's another day.
Yeah, we agree with that.
Okay.
I would say B as well. I just think it lacks a seamless construction of a lot of other ones, where it's like a lot of Pixar films. You've got that such incredible concept, but the whole story and world are built around.
I honestly think in a lot of ways, these two very similar. Very similar to Coco.
Yeah, I think it's very similar in many ways to a lot of them. I think it's similar to Up, and whereby the first 10 minutes are better than anything else that comes after it. I think it's similar. I think it's very similar to Ratatouille in a lot of the messages it's saying. Therefore, it does feel slightly derivative in parts. I think it feels like a modern Pixar film, in not the best way. Which I mean, like it wears its emotions on its sleeve. You understand what it's doing. You understand what it's going for. You've seen enough Pixar films at this point where it's doing nothing different. It's not surprising you in any way. Where I think you can appreciate the animation, you can appreciate the music, you can appreciate the concept that it creates for itself, but I don't think it's doing anything to elevate itself beyond that in any meaningful capacity. So I think I'd go B.
I think I think this movie also is a bit rushed, and that's because it tries to fit in that whole cat story. And if you just took that out and was able to effectively replace it with continuations of other stories that are in the film, it would have felt a lot more organic. and powerful, and that ultimately, including that, forced the other parts of the film, which I found much more interesting, to be a lot shorter. So overall, the payoff wasn't as strong as it could have been, but it is overall still a very solid film.
It's still a very solid film. I just think the Pixar formula is a very strong one. And I think it just meets that in pretty much every regard, which means it just doesn't do anything to quite make me passionate enough about it. But it's still a very competently made film. I describe this film as competent, which is a sort of double-edged sword in a way.
Sure. For sure. Luca, I think is a C, maybe D. It's C. I think it's very forgettable. It isn't really doing anything. It feels oddly detached from the Pixar, but also manages to still hit all of the same beats at the time.
It feels like a good a DreamWorks film. It is
even more like a Disney animation studio. Like,
yes, that's what I mean. I think that it's so. The thing is, I love it, the way it looks, and I love the colors, and I love the score is very good, and it's super cute and entertaining. But the characters just don't have that interest.
There's no emotional core.
There's no, the characters aren't interesting, and the setting and how cute it is, and I think it has a good story, make up for that enough that, you know, I would maybe have it in B on my but C makes more sense in at least in comparison to this. And I think that it just overall doesn't have the strength that, you know, some of these other ones have. And I get that the story is, you know, meant to be simple, but, you know, Finding Nemo is simple, but it has the strength and it has the passion where with
most Pixar movies, even if the majority of the film isn't that strong, you remember the ending, and the ending sticks in your mind. This film, the ending doesn't stick in my mind at all.
No,
it doesn't stick the landing, which I think elevates some of the films that we have above it.
Yeah, and this might be a slightly weird comparison, but I would compare it slightly to Monsters University, where it's got a really nice world, it establishes a really nice setting, then it spins its wheels a bit in terms of a competition-based plot that sort of is irrelevant, but really gets the plot beats moving. But it lacks the emotional core, as we were saying, that I think Monsters University has. It lacks that key relationship, that friendship dynamic that you want to establish, because obviously you could read this film as queer or whatever. It's not really, because it doesn't go there.
I just don't understand how you can rate this movie a 9 or 10 out of 10. Like that, that to me is really a lot.
It's aggressively a 5 for me.
For me, I'd give it a 7 even.
I'd give it a 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, and it's good, but it's just, it doesn't have the impact.
No. I think that is its major problem. It lacks that resonance.
For sure. Okay, Turning Red, I would say C, maybe B.
I think B. I think this is a really good movie, actually. I really love this one.
It's a bit annoying at points, but I do think that I think that there is an emotional core underneath all of it that does work. And
I think the characters are memorable, and I think it's also very fun to look at. And I'm sorry, but this you know, maybe isn't have to do with the strength of the film, but the scene where the mom is cooking, I wanted to eat all of that so bad. It looked so good. So I'm fine with C, but I would probably put it in B myself.
I mean, looking at where these tiers are shaping out, I do think it is better than the stuff that we've got in D. I do think it is on the lower end of C, though. I just find the protagonist to be so insufferably annoying, and I get it. That's the point. This is an annoying sort of preteen, whatever. Like, sure, but you can't base a film off a character that you just don't like watching.
Like,
and I think that is my major problem with the film.
The emotional core
is there, which elevates it beyond Cars 3 and Toy Story 4, but I just lack any like desire to rewatch it at any point. Like, I've seen
I was gonna say with the emotional core, it feels like the emotional core is more broadly attached to the themes rather than the characters, which I feel like is an issue. And it feels like there is a disconnect between character and theme for a lot of the film, even though it's like really desperately trying to bridge that gap with the metaphor of the panda and all this type of stuff. But I don't think it really gets there in the end.
That's fair. I think I enjoy this the most out of us, but like, I'm not going to rally for it in like an intense way. I'm not that passionate.
All right. Lightyear. This is D. It's not F because of the cat.
No, this is F, unquestionably.
I'm not going to argue for it.
It's not F.
I think this is, no, I think this is Oh my god. This is my least favorite.
No,
Pixar film.
it's a D because lesbians kiss in it, so not an F. Otherwise, you're homophobic.
I'm sorry.
During Pride
Look,
Month, Sam,
look.
that's crazy. During Pride Month,
That whole thing felt so forced and unnatural.
I know. That was one of the most annoying parts of it.
It was so annoying, and it looks ugly. Visually, it's ugly.
Sorry, I thought you were still talking about lesbians kissing.
The major problem with the film.
No, I think
they just look ugly doing it. What can I?
This movie is so uninteresting to look at. It doesn't have a single memorable visual. The character design is so bland. It has no memorable characters. Everything about this movie is forgettable and uninteresting. And I just don't get it. It's so bad. This is below F. I think.
I don't agree. It's that bad.
On the visuals, we've seen what they can do with space with WALL-E, and this just feels so underwhelming in comparison. But I don't know. I think if you have to make a Lightyear movie, which you don't, but if you have to, it's at least serviceable for that. But it's a really bad movie.
This is so much worse than Brave and even Onward, I think, because at least Onward,
you're convincing me. I think it's F.
No, at least Onward. Look, at least Onward had you could tell that even though it was money mostly, there was an ounce of heart. This is just money. I mean, even that cute cat, it's just for money.
It's just for money.
And it's so simplistic and surface level in every regard. Terrible.
Yeah.
If we're putting stuff in F tier just based on the fact they lack a soul and are just built for money, put Toy Story 4 in F tier.
No.
Thank you. Put Toy Story 4 in F tier. Lightyear is...
Toy Story 4 is at least nice to look at, though. Lightyear is not nice to look at.
Toy Story 4 is angering. Film is not angering. It doesn't drive me to any emotion, really.
It annoyed me.
Major problem. It's
boring. This movie angered me.
But it's really not. It's not.
I also might be a bit harsh on this. I saw this in IMAX with a migraine. So
it's when I look at it, it's not Cars 2. It's just not.
It's worse than Cars 2.
No, it's not. It's really not.
I'm fine with an F here.
This is absolutely F.
But we're also about to put another movie. Sorry, we're about to put another movie in F.
Oh no.
Elemental is an F.
D.
Elemental is awful.
Yes.
Elemental is genuinely. I think Elemental is Pixar's worst movie.
You're lying to yourself.
It's terrible. It is so.
Can I say something at Elemental?
So uninteresting. No.
The backgrounds, the city animation is really nice to look at. It has cool locations and a good score. It has a good score. But I do agree, the characters suck. They are obnoxious, unmemorable, and one-dimensional. I think that the two main characters of this movie are the least interesting Pixar protagonists because they truly feel like they were generated by ChatGPT.
And they're designed specifically around one singular archetype to service one singular specific story beat that's been beat like a dead horse for so long in animated films. It's just doing we're going to do a racism or an othering allegory, but using things that aren't race or sexuality or all these things. It's just it's so tired and it's so annoying. Fire and water, they won't get along, will they? It's a lot. Fuck off.
But at least it's doing something. Where every other film on the F tier, I can't point to anything it's even trying to do.
No, but the fact that it's doing something so redundant makes it almost worse to me.
I don't think it does. I think this film is so completely formulaic and in line with the rest of Pixar's work, where it is just a pale comparison. And I think on its own, I don't think it's quite as bad. When you look at it compared to the rest of Pixar stuff, you go, yes, I got this element from here and this element from here. On its own, it's just sort of a bland animated film. I don't think that puts it anywhere near the F level and anywhere near the worst Pixar have put out.
Where do you have it?
There are stuff on the D tier. There are stuff on the D
I would put D.
Okay, let's put bottom of D.
Yeah, that's fair. Because I don't know, it just It
I hate this movie a lot.
also looks like such a sore thumb in the last animated feature race where we had 4 genuinely good films and then this.
Yeah. Anyways, last one here. We've been talking for a long time. Inside Out 2, the latest one. I like this quite a bit. I think it is very, very good. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this. I feel like it works really well. Like it does what I think almost every other Pixar sequel that isn't called Toy Story fails to do on this list, which is justify itself as a sequel in a really strong way that feels like a natural and organic continuation of the characters. And while retreading some similar ground, it does so in a fresh way that doesn't feel redundant. Like it works on a I don't know, rather than trying to go back and recapture what the first film does, it builds on it in a really nice way. And we'll have a full review on this that either is already out or will be out right after this. Yeah, good movie. I would say top of B to bottom of A.
I think B for the other movies that are in B. But you know, I don't think it's on the level of Nemo. I just think that Inside Out,
the way the list is looking, I would say
I was really worried.
I'd agree.
I was really worried about it because,
Same.
you know, obviously with, you know, the last 2 Pixar films that were released, both being, as you can see, in the F and D tier.
Yeah.
They were pretty rough. And
even C's. Like
Inside Out, as you said, it's organic as a sequel because the first film had so much world building and was such a broad concept in so many ways that it is justified that you would make a second film because there's so much more you can do. And because, you know, Riley was so young, you can, you know, show the development of a kid in an interesting way. And do you know what I'm so thankful for is that I was not annoyed by anxiety. I thought I was going to be, I thought anxiety was going to be an obnoxious character. And actually
Maya Hawke was excellent.
It was not annoying to watch anxiety. And, you know, people have talked about this, but showing that you need anxiety in your life is a really good message for young kids and for teenagers. And
again, that can feel redundant on the same, like, oh, you need sadness in your life, but it does it in a very, like, it executes it in a very different way, where it's also way more Riley-centric. It's way more Riley-centric than the first one, which I think makes it work.
And I think the film is self-aware that it's going to have issues in comparison to the first, and it's going to get compared to the first. And I think the movie is aware of that enough to not take itself too seriously. The only thing is that 2 of the voice actors from the first film, you know, aren't in this film for very specific reasons that, you know, make sense. This isn't the film's fault, but I did notice their absences in the voice cast, and I was kind of disappointed by that. But you know, nice to see Io Debris, Adele Exarchopoulos.
I'm crazy that she was
as Ennui.
Yeah, I feel like the film is a bit more unfocused than the first one. And again, not everything has to be in comparison, but it is a bit unfocused, and I think that's probably because of the doubling cast and characters. But I also liked all of the new characters, so I can kind of forgive it for being a bit more unfocused.
And I think having, like, I would agree that it does feel a little more unfocused, but it is still a very tightly constructed plot. Like, if you look at how, because there's really 3 sort of subplots going on there. There's the stuff inside Riley's control room, there's the Riley stuff, and then there's Joy and anger and whatever.
Her being a lesbian with hockey girls.
It's all linked, and everything that happens has a payoff, and therefore it just makes for a really satisfying.
It's like it's the George Lucas like three plane storytelling where everything impacts the other. Yeah,
it doesn't feel quite as imaginative because you do kind of get a sense of as where it's going, but I do think there is something to be said about just a plot that is that tightly like figured out. It feels like this was the final draft, and like many films do feel like you could have done with a bit more draft. This feels like a finished product with a unified vision that I think just comes together really nicely and delivers messages that are simple and covered with very simple visual metaphors that they go for, but I think is very, very important. And I think the messages that are applicable to everyone of any age. I think the messages that this film is going for in terms of the need.
I said this is teetering on an A. Like this is.
It's not quite there because
I think the way the list is shaped out, I think it's B.
Yeah. The way the list is out, but I mean, this is probably the best Pixar film since the first Inside Out. To be honest,
I agree with you, and I think that even though I like Turning Red a lot, and I like Luca as well.
I like Soul a lot.
Even after I watch those films, like they don't stay. Inside Out 2 actually has gotten better with the more I think about it, which is never what I expect it to say. And it doesn't like fade in your mind. Like you don't look at it and go, oh, that was fun, but really didn't do anything for me and was kind of useless. Like, no, this film, as we said, justifies its existence and leaves you with more. And I'd even be fine for an Inside Out 3, even though I think that it wouldn't be authentic to not talk about more adult themes and, you know, have more adult things in it, which obviously Pixar can't do. Like, I think that would truly be amazing. But I would be fine with an Inside Out 3. I think there's still enough.
The emotions figuring out sex.
I imagine how funny it would be if Riley got high and everyone, all the emotions were all over the place. Like, that would be really funny, but obviously not going to happen, sadly. And this
they get the weed personality.
This will probably be the last. You know, I say that this will probably be the last in the Inside Out franchise, but
I hope not. I genuinely hope not.
I think
it'll
make a lot of money
out of this.
It's got the messages on the surface, but it's also doing some stuff as well. It's about finding joy in your hobbies, I think, is a great message for kids to have. So it's doing a lot beneath the surface, which I feel a lot of the most recent Pixar films are not doing, and even including things like Soul, even including things like Coco. I think they are quite surface level. As much as they're well made, they're charming, they are quite surface level, where I think that this is the first time I've been sort of unambiguously positive, where like I've had caveats for liking Soul, I've had caveats for liking Luca, I've had caveats for liking Onward for the most part. I know, obviously, sticky subject, but this one, like I genuinely think there is not much to complain about in terms of it being a sequel and in it being a film within its own rights and exploring very important stuff. I genuinely, and I love the visual metaphor.
Pixar's best franchise other than Toy Story, like already.
It is.
There's some great puns in there as well. The brainstorm, I love that sort of idea, and it's very simple. It's very kiddish, but it works, and it works for this world, and it works for the tone that they're establishing. So
for sure, absolutely,
it's great.
All right, so to go over the final list, and we can make any last adjustments. So in S tier, we have The Incredibles, WALL-E, Ratatouille, Toy Story 3, Inside Out, and Monsters Inc. In A tier, Toy Story 2, Toy Story, and Finding Nemo. B tier, Inside Out 2, Soul, Coco, Up, Monsters University. C tier, Cars, A Bug's Life, Incredibles 2, Turning Red, and Luca. D tier, Brave, Cars 3, Toy Story 4, Onward, and Elemental. F tier, Lightyear, Cars 2, Finding Dory, The Good Dinosaur. Anything we want to change that we feel strongly about?
I like this list.
I mean, you know that there's something I would change, but I feel I'm not going to win you over with Toy Story 4 deserving to be an F tier.
I would also say Elemental and F tier, but you know,
but
I think this is a good list. I think that we made a good list.
I like what we've kept ourselves restrained in the S&A. So I think it's turned out quite nicely.
And I'm glad you guys let me have my Ratatouille in the S tier.
Yeah,
I got Inside Out and WALL-E S tier.
I've got Toy Story 3 and The Incredibles.
Incredibles. Yep. I mean, I think we just each have our two favorites.
I agree with all of the S tier. I would just put Nemo in there as well.
Yeah, and I would just personally put Toy Story in there. But other than that, I think the S tier is
great.
S
all right, well,
really good.
That is our Pixar tier list. So we want to do more of these. We're going to do one with Richard Linklater soon. That will just be Thomas and I. Sam is going to be joining us for a Yorgos Lanthimos one at the end of the month, which should be quite fun. But I don't know, these things are fun. They're a fun way to talk about a bunch of films. So that is it for today. Again, if the Inside Out 2 review is out, then go watch that. If it isn't out, then keep an eye out for it. It'll be out tomorrow, probably. I don't know. But until then, you can follow us on Letterboxd and Twitter, and the links in the description. And thank you everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.